Before we get started, I want to thank our usual crowd. First of all, Jody Byatt of Rock USA and Randy Keller of CCCD. They've been our professional guides all along. And we are hoping they are able to join the Zoom to handle any questions that might come up. I'd like to thank our communications team, Mary Curry, Irma Wheatley, Carol Joy Harris, Anila Manning, our AV crowd, David Gray, Ronald Citron, John Feld,
Yay.
Refreshments, Brad Witherspoon,
Irma.
all volunteers, PAC Board,
She was on
HOL, Marval, Invest, Food Distribution, Echo, MarinValley.net, and a special mystery group that will be announced at the end of the workshop. Just so you know, this meeting is being recorded. So, the overall goal of what we're about here is to become a resident-owned housing cooperative to provide affordability, security, self-determination, and independence now and into the future. You can clap. And our next objective, current objective, next slide, please. Is to continue taking the steps to prepare the way so we can do that. First step is the Marin Valley Cooperative, which you'll hear more about in just a few minutes. Big, huge development for us going forward. All right, workshop agenda. This is what we're going to cover today. First of all, our normal introductions and ground rules. The goals, the workshop goals, what we have in mind for today. We're going to give you an update on our two roads, which you know by now. Road number one, the ENA, the exclusive negotiating agreement with the city. Road number two is the LEHC development. Then we're going to talk about the Marin Valley Cooperative joining process. And we'll talk about the first member vote that will be coming up, hopefully within the next month. After each of those, we'll have short Q&A sessions, depending on our time, and then we'll have a discussion about what's next. So introductions. John, would you start us, please?
Yes, I'm John Hanson. I'm on the PAC board, the Marin Valley Cooperative Board, and on the ROD Committee and Invest and a few other things too.
Excellent. I'm Mary Curry. I'm on the PAC board, and I'm also serving on the Resident Ownership Discovery Committee and also working with the new secret organization that you're going to hear about later.
I'm David Tetta, and I'm also on the Resident Ownership Discovery Committee.
And assisting with the secret new group.
And I'm Serena Fisher, a member of the ROD committee, and tell me that's plenty.
And I'm Alan Gump.
Yes.
I'm also on the ROD committee. So our ground rules for today. Wait a minute. Nope. Yes, our ground rules. First of all, remember, no restroom breaks. Just get up and go. We only have an hour and a half. If we have a break in the middle of that, we'll never get it back. So just get up and go, and please do so quietly. Refrain from sidebar conversations. That's when you lean to your neighbor and talk. It's disruptive to everybody. Phones. Everybody's asking to please turn the phones off. Yes, please. They interfere with our radio communications here. They're also very distracting. If they go off, somebody's phone goes off, you will be treating everyone to pub or drinks. And finally, when we have our Q&A sessions, please stay on topic. At the end, if we have time, if we're doing well on our time management, we can open up the questions for everything, but we'd like to stay focused on topic for as you see here, first of all, on the joining process and then on the vote coming up. Then we'll have a quick conversation about what's coming up next. So the workshop goals, I forgot to say one key thing. Go back one slide, please. My job is to keep us all on time and on topic, okay? Forgive me in advance. All right. Workshop goals. At the end of this workshop, you should be able to understand the current negotiations with the city, where things are with that, as well as the current stage of LEHC development. You should understand how to join the new Marin Valley Cooperative via the joining agreement and the joining fee. And finally, you should understand an overview of the upcoming proposals for our first vote coming up, we hope again within the first month. So, John.
Actually, Mary.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I was just going to reiterate what, a little bit of what Alan just said. As you know, we've been on two roads. I think we've tried to really use that analogy through the whole thing. We've got the city road where we're working on negotiations, and then we have the road where we're working on the development of the cooperative. So, let me find the slide that I'm supposed to be talking about. Oh, John, you go.
Okay, now it's my turn.
Well rehearsed.
Okay, the two roads, number one has to do then with the PAC board and what we're doing with the ENA tests. First of all, I want to say with regards to the ENA, that's what we need to pretty much complete that before we can actually start negotiating. So we don't really have a negotiated price or anything, and we won't until we get these tasks done. We made some pretty good progress on it. Let's see, what have we done?
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, but anyway, we have a report coming out from legal on the progress that we've done so far. And they're working on that. We should get it in and get it to the city very soon. And let's see, then also we have a requested meeting with the city to go through some of these things and to mostly go through what our infrastructure is and some of the issues that we're still have questions on with the ENA.
I just want to add on that, you'll see on the bottom there, the meeting request for city costs and insurance. Those are some areas that the city's pushing back. This is the ENA. It stays out on the clubhouse counter. I borrowed it for tonight. It's online. And this is a document that has a number of steps in it that we have to comply with to move towards purchase. And it's signed with the city, as John said. So city costs, the way the ENA reads is that we have to pay for all of their costs outside of our own pockets. So we pushed back and said, there's money in reserves, we don't want to do that. And they've pushed back saying, that's what the ENA says, so that's what you have to do. And we push back saying, please reconsider. So we're in the please reconsider state. And we're really desperately working very hard to find a different way to pay for the costs that are incurred as we go through this process with the city. And then insurance, they wanted us to have some duplicative insurance. And we believe, we don't have it in writing yet, that we've convinced them that we don't need it because it's, guess what? Duplicative. So anyway, next.
That means we already have it.
Yeah, we already have it.
some.
We've already paid for it.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
That's where we are.
Okay, so two of the ENA tasks that are in here were to get a title report from the city of Novato. They supplied that to us in early July. A title report is, it's kind of a document that shows all the different easements and encroachments, and it's a legal document that tells you the status of the property. And we had some concerns and pushbacks on that that our lawyer sent back to the city, and the city's responded back. It's kind of funny. One of the things that they pushed back on is they said that right now we pay, you may not know this, we pay what's called in lieu of taxes, in lieu of property taxes. We pay a chunk of change every year for that because we're not paying property taxes. So in the title review, the city said, we want you to keep paying that. And we're like, if we buy the property, get down the road, we're not going to keep paying in lieu of taxes. We're going to be paying our own property taxes. So that's gone back to the city and pointed out to the city attorney that that's just ridiculous.
They're scratching their head on that one, right?
Yeah, so we're waiting to hear back. We want it in writing. The other thing they pushed back on was maintaining the roads to the park, because technically the land around us is in a conservation easement and the land around us is owned by the city. So the roads provide an access to the so-called recreation areas in the hills and side valleys around us. And they wouldn't give in on that. So what we will do with the costs of keeping up the roads is we put that into the formula when we negotiate a price. We'll add that price and say, okay, city, we have to do it. So, hey, the surplus land act exemption, the Surplus Land Act in brief, very brief, is a requirement for municipalities or any, I think any government entity in California that has surplus property that they own that they want to sell. They either have to go out to bid to a whole full range of potential buyers, or the potential buyer, us, gets an exemption. So we've been able to show the city the exemption that we can get. And basically the exemption says that we will maintain what I'm going to call a floating 40% of our homes at low income. It's not you or you or you, it's across the entire park will be 40%. And we're way above that now. And so that's going to be very easy to maintain.
But it's nothing new. We've had that condition
that's what-
forever.
Right.
It's just that we never had to address it.
Right. And then the next slide, the things that we're working on now, the ENA is exclusive negotiating agreement, in case you didn't know that. We have to provide a financial analysis and a financial plan. So it's basically, what's the roadway that we will take to be able to buy the park? And what does that look like in terms of numbers and loans and grants, and how will we do this? And that's underway now. And then we're waiting to work with the city to get what's called due diligence. It's like an inspection on your home, but we need an inspection on the park. We need to look at the sewers, the water, electrical, everything in the park that's commonly owned by all of us, to help us figure out it'll weigh into the negotiated price. You know, if there's something falling apart and has to be replaced, then that's a big factor. So, John, you can wrap it up.
Yeah, with regard to due diligence, now, we do have
Oh.
one of the items that we have in our budget is something similar. It's called a park condition report. And we're actually required by the state to do that every few years. And it hasn't been done since 2016. And then it was sort of revised or amended in 2019. But there's not been anybody out here with a shovel or a stethoscope or anything to really see what's going on. So that's one of the budget items that we've requested from the city, in that it needs to be done no matter what. So that's still, we haven't heard anything from that yet. But what we have heard is from many of the others. We had actually 13 CIP budget items. That means
CIP?
CPI.
What does it mean?
Capital improvement.
Capital
know.
improvement budgets. Yeah, capital improvements. That's different from the operations budget. That's the day-to-day stuff. Capital improvement means when things have deteriorated to the extent that they need to be replaced or upgraded to extend their useful life. So, but we put in for 13 capital improvement items. 8 of those we say are major items. And 3 of those we told the city way back when, a couple of months ago, are critical. Well, we just heard from the city just a few days ago after writing a 3-page letter, I think it was last week. And we heard from them actually fairly quickly earlier this week that those 3 critical projects are underway. And that's the electrical switch that we need to replace before it goes out and never goes back on. Yes. And getting the roof repaired. That's a major thing. And the other thing is is moving forward, making progress on the Americans with Disability Act, or ADA compliance, that we are required to have here. And we've done a lot of ADA work in the past, but we haven't done any in several years. And we are out of compliance until this project is going. That one is underway as well. So kudos to the city for getting those things moving. The critical things that we requested, it's happening at the speed of government, but nevertheless, it's happening.
Yeah, it's interesting on that these 3 projects they've got bids and they're ready to sign contracts with companies, but they didn't tell us.
Yeah.
So
We had to ask.
we wrote this 3-page letter about, mainly, I think you'd all agree that it's a health and safety risk.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
they responded and things are moving. Next road.
Oh, okay, we're still on.
Oh,
We're on
I
an
think we're on
FA.
LEHC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The LEHC
yeah,
road.
we
Yeah,
made it.
there we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you all know that Marin Valley Cooperative was incorporated as a nonprofit public benefit corporation in the state of California a couple of weeks ago on September 4th. Yay! First step. And this week, the MVC interim directors had a business meeting on Tuesday and approved draft interim bylaws that allow us to begin doing business, such as what we're doing tonight, beginning to sign up members. These bylaws will be part of the upcoming votes that will be done at the initial membership meeting, and we're going to cover that later in this presentation. For the time being, the MVC nonprofit is operating under General California Nonprofit Corporation Law, as opposed to the Brown Act. So that's a distinction between how the PAC board operates. Once we own the park, the co-op will be operating under another law called the Davis-Sterling Act, which governs condominiums and things where there's a common property in a development. We're going to work towards the MVC board operating in that same fashion under that law as we move closer to a sale. But in terms of what's actually legally required or not, the MVC board is not legally subject to Davis-Sterling until we take ownership of the park.
David, I'd like to add in there too that the Brown Act that we're under now is really designed for government. It's not really that appropriate for our kind of operation here. Davis-Sterling is designed for this kind of operation. So it's going to be much more in alignment with what we need and how we do things in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. And right now we're using we're using attorneys from Goldfarb Lippman, two in particular, Karen Tiedemann and Aaron Leperolari, to develop the initial legal framework for this co-op. They've helped us in a variety of ways, including being involved in some planning meetings, filing the articles of incorporation for us. They were the ones that handled that step. Developing a legal roadmap for how we move all the way from this initial filing to becoming a full limited equity housing co-op. And they've also been involved in reviewing the documents that you all will be voting on when we have the first initial membership meeting. So we anticipate that these expenses for Goldfarb Lippman are going to be covered under a pre-development loan from Rock USA that we would get at some point prior to the purchase and sale agreement. And I have that in quotes. Well,
Yeah.
it's in quotes because these expenses
There.
are covered under a Rock USA policy where they allow any reasonable legal expenses involved in pre-sale development work. And again, we're hoping that's true for our situation as well. However, our case does involve some additional complications related to 1, city negotiations, 2, making sure we've properly transitioned between the roles and rights of the PAC community as a whole and the residents in the PAC community to the members of the co-op and what rights and responsibilities they have. There's also some unique features of California law. All of those, the gist of it is that some expenses may go beyond what Rock USA normally covers, and we would expect those to be included in the first year budget of the co-op once we acquire the park. And Jody, I think, is on the line.
Is Jody here? Did
Is
she
Jody
make-
on the line yet?
No.
Okay. Well, whenever Jody comes on in a future meeting, and I'm sure we will, if there are questions about that, I'm sure we'll bring her on. She can go into that in more detail if you have questions about that. But she is working with her bosses at Rock USA to figure out exactly the extent to which they'll be covering our legal expenses. Now, some legal expenses are currently being covered by Rock USA as a matter of course. There's a lot of templates here, legal sort of draft legal documents that are being adjusted to make sure they comply with current California legal requirements. Rock USA is covering all of those expenses. And lastly, there are a few other expenses associated with getting us up and running, including ward liability insurance, bank account setup, a few minor things, but we're looking for other ways of covering those immediate costs. For instance, we're looking at getting voluntary contributions from some residents to cover the board liability insurance that we need to procure sooner rather than later. And I think that's pretty much it on the LEHC update.
Great.
Thanks, Dave.
So what's the rationale for proceeding with a joining agreement now? It's important that I'm clear about the fact that we are joining a corporation as the first stage of becoming an LEHC. To become an LEHC is a long process, and that will be finalized after we take possession of the park from the city. So there are a number of steps along the way. So this initial joining agreement enables a household to have a vote in our first membership meeting. So it's really important to become a member. So there are 5 important reasons. We must demonstrate to our stakeholders, which includes the community, that we have momentum and support for becoming a resident-owned community. The more members that we have, the higher our chance of being successful in getting a financing from Rock USA Capital for our purchase. The joining process is very, very simple. There's a joining agreement form, and all we're asking is a $25 check made out to Marin Valley Co-op. This will go into a special account, and if we fail to become a co-op down the line, this is refundable. So very low risk. We're also on the progress of to become, there are thresholds, I should say, to become a co-op. And it's important that we have a higher and higher number of people participating or households participating to pass those votes. So it's really important that you consider joining as soon as possible so that you can be included in the first meeting where we're going to have some important votes. Basically, if you want to say in our future, please join. Otherwise, you'll be subject to what other members decide for you if we become a co-op. Household. As an important aside, when it comes to the final purchase and sale agreement, all legal residents of Marin Valley community here will have a vote, not just the members. So that's important. So moving along.
There's a question.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
I would just add, we've got copies for you tonight of the joining agreement that Serena just talked about. And there's an accompanying page that explains what Serena just said, because it's a lot to absorb. So the second page explains what the heck this membership agreement is all about. And the
Tear it
25,
off and keep it.
tear it off and keep it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Serena.
So thank you. So we're ready to accept members today. Today. So I just want to be clear too that this is a $25 check made out to Marin Valley cooperative, and you sign a joining agreement, and the co-op membership fee will be determined by the co-op board and the members. So the final fee, we've discussed this, to become a co-op is going to be somewhere between $100 and $1,000. Our goal, and it's a one-time fee, and that is refundable when you sell your move out. But it's important to, sorry. Free drink.
Free drinks, who was that?
So where's my thought? Yes, so we're going to do a vote. Basically, the members will approve this fee. So that's why it's also important to become a member. So at this point, we'd like Carol Joy, please, to come up.
Is this on? Is this microphone on yet?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say that there are right now 5 members of the Marin Valley Co-op. And that's the people who are the PAC board members who are also the same people as the Marin Valley Cooperative.
Got some more right here.
Okay, so,
getting-
but I haven't recorded those yet.
That's right.
So we had to do that because we have to open the bank account. And so it was something we had to do. So we got 5 members. And then was there somebody else who
Yes,
wanted
please.
to
Yeah, if you
give a check
Yeah.
right now?
Dave?
All right, more members.
More members.
Dave, Dave, come over here.
And you'll have your chance to give a check at the end of the meeting. You'll have your chance. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. We've got a lot of time. We didn't do that because we weren't sure we'd have a bank account to
Okay,
put it in.
Thank you.
So
Thank-
just,
All right.
No, that's me instead of Chase.
I'm sorry, John.
We can't hear her when she's not on microphone.
Becca Marin,
Let's move on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
we'll get more questions on
So-
that later.
It's a separate account and as I said, it is refundable if we decide or not to proceed.
And just as a side note, Carol Joy and Steve Plucker will be, Carol Joy keeps track of who becomes a member and Steve keeps track of the checks. So there'll be a tracking process that will be official under the Marin Valley Cooperative.
So
Just
at
what
the,
just what the secretary and the treasurer should be doing.
so at the end of this meeting, there's a table at the back that you will be able to go and get your joining form. And there is going to be a big box, it is out there already, a big box that you can put your check and joining form in an envelope in that box. It's a big wooden box on the floor.
The ballot box
Yeah.
that we used back in June.
So please put it in an envelope so that it doesn't get separated. Thank you. So.
So
Uh,
hold
just-
on. We'll take questions right after this,
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. So again, just simple. You're agreeing to pay a $25 joining fee. You acknowledge the joining fee is not the full amount of the membership fee. You acknowledge that the joining fee will be applied as a credit towards the full membership fee of becoming a co-op. And you acknowledge that the joining fee is refunded if we fail to gain title of the park. So what have you got to lose?
It's
All
like
right.
a down payment
Right.
that's refundable.
Okay, we're going to open it up for questions now. How we'll do this is we'll take the room first and then we'll take questions on Zoom. And this question and answer period is about the joining process only. Carol Joy.
I just wanted to tell people that we're also sending this out, the joining form and the instructions via Constant Contact. So you'll have a chance, anybody who isn't here or for whatever reason, if you have a printer at home, you can print it out and do it that way. And I wanted to say that the process that we have for the treasurer and myself, the secretary, to gather these. Oh, look, I have a halo. Oh, is that every Friday at 4:30, I will be going to the ballot box and emptying it. I have the key and I will have an observer, and that is Carolyn Corey, because she's here anyway, getting ready for pub. Just to, to make sure everything is on the up and up. And then it will be separated and the treasurer will keep track of the money and I'll keep track of the membership.
Thank you,
Thank
Carol
you, Carol
Joy.
Joy. All right, Kevin.
Kevin Mulvaney, 115 Panorama Drive. A couple membership questions. If people in the park, some of them have conservators, they have financial agents and whatnot. The resident is no longer able to make financial decisions. Will that agent or conservator be the one that can make the vote, even though they might be 20 years old? In other words, they're responsible for the resident. Another issue is, that's kind of an interesting question, a legal question. The other thing is, the people that are not participating, and there's well over 100, do they understand how important this this $25 in membership agreement is? That they are at this point, they're out of the discussion. Are we going to get to them and say, do you understand that we're moving along and this is a very critical issue? This is a step they should take, or you will have no say.
Short answer, yes.
Yeah, we'll explain that.
So
little
in,
later
in
this
in terms of your first question, John is going to talk about what defines a member when we
Mhm.
get a little further down because it's defined in the bylaws.
That's right.
So, but it's an excellent question, and we will probably want to fine tune the answer with Jody and Randy.
Yeah, conservator has
situation.
legal.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Hi, Adrienne Ames. I have a question for you. How come you don't move into the 20th, at least into the 20th century? So you could take my debit card tonight instead of my having to go somewhere and find where the hell my checks are, which I haven't written, I don't know, well, since the last rent, right? Also, I had wanted to donate to the legal fund, which would be a lot easier with a debit card or a credit card. How come? Why don't you do that? Easy.
I'm not sure that we have the legal capability of doing
we're
it
not there
because we
yet.
have to maintain chain of custody and things like that. There's a finer answer that I'm giving, but maybe it's a question we can send over to Steve. Maybe it's a question we can
I
ask
think
our
part of it
experts.
is it costs money to set it up, and we don't have money.
Not that much money.
I know, but we don't have money. We don't have any, we're trying to get a roof.
We've been wondering why we've had to pay checks.
But we'll
for our
look into it.
monthly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our monthly rent for so long. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Venmo or
Any other
Zelle
questions
might be it.
before we go to Zoom? Please get in line. Thank you.
All Steve needs is a square.
Didn't,
Square.
She said, "What we need is square."
okay, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Do we have question? Anybody else? Steve, please come forward because maybe you can respond to that question.
That's not.
Steve Ploker, 51 Clubview Drive. The membership fees are going to go into a membership bank account. That is not going to be an operating account. We cannot pay any expenses out of it because those are refundable. You decide 3 months later you want to move out, we have to give it back to you. If you decide 10 years later you want to move out, most likely at that point you'll be reimbursed by the person who's buying your place. It'll be an escrow thing. But even so, we have to keep that money in a secure account because it's like a deposit from a customer. It's not ours. It's a liability the moment we take it in, okay? So we can't even use it to pay for the checks or the endorsement stamp. We're gonna have to borrow money from our operating account, which we're also gonna open tomorrow. So we're gonna open 2 accounts. One account where everything just stays there. It might as well be a savings account. And the other one, an operating account, because you saw them mention some directors and officers insurance. We're gonna have to pay that soon. So that's why we'll be opening an operating account.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Zoom questions, please. Do you have a question? Please, name, please.
Barbara Texera, 184 Marin Valley Drive. You mentioned chain of custody. Whoops, thank you.
Yep.
Chain of custody. What did you mean by that?
Chain of custody is making sure that when somebody puts a document or a check in someplace and it's meant to go over here and there's several steps along the way, that you maintain integrity along each of those steps so that what came in over here goes in over here.
And
So
just-
basically it's what Carol Joy described in terms of moving the checks from the box. She's going to collect them every Friday and getting them to Steve Ploker for deposit in the bank. That's really what we.
And you explained an account that was just like it's sitting there. Do we get any interest on this?
That's a question for, Steve mentioned that it would be a savings account. Maybe there'll be some interest. Steve's giving me a thumbs up.
That's
Yeah,
good.
there will be an interest bearing account. How much I don't know. Interest rates just went down. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, Kamala.
This is Kamala Allen. Sorry, I totally spaced on what you said about what we should do if we want to pay our $25 today.
Oh, it's not a problem. If you have your checkbook with you, you'll go to the back of the room
Yes.
where Irma Wheatley and Paul Weinberger will be,
Okay.
and you will pick up a membership form, an envelope, and you have your checkbook. You will execute that membership form, you will write your check, and you will put it in the box out front. Very easy.
Thank
And if you don't do it tonight, you can do it anytime.
Yeah, we're looking to try to get as many members in the next 2 weeks, just so we can show progress and momentum.
Okay, let's move on to
Yeah.
Zoom questions.
Thank you, Ellen.
Todd and Michelle.
Hi, Michelle Rodriguez. A quick question about the joining agreement. Does the contents of the draft bylaws address the joining agreement and when it's refundable and what we're committing to?
I'm looking right now.
We're going to talk about the interim bylaws in a few minutes.
I'm
May-
pretty sure that it does.
Maybe we
I
will
don't think
hold
it
that
does.
question until then.
It doesn't.
If not, it's Jody and Randy, are you on the call? We know Randy had a commitment. Jody was traveling back from Atlanta, so maybe didn't make it in time.
Michelle will note that and,
Yeah, let's note that question. We'll get an answer to you. The joining agreement states is specifically what Serena just read off, these 4 bullet points. Go back one slide. Yeah, these 4 bullet points right here.
Check it out.
That's on the form.
yeah, Rock USA did not require it as part of the bylaws. It's a separate document, but we'll double check as to why it's not in the bylaws.
That's right. Yeah,
That means it's typically not part of the
that's right.
co-op
Yeah.
formation process.
Right.
The point for
Okay.
bringing it up, oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
was just the point that somebody said that it would be refunded if you sold your property, but the 4th bullet only says joining fee is refunded if we fail to purchase the park.
Right, there's other measures under which
Yeah.
it's refundable. We just didn't get into all the detail here. But there are other circumstances and we can make that more clear.
That's right.
And the bylaws do talk about how the actual membership fee gets refunded.
And that'll probably be drilled out further in the permanent bylaws as we get closer.
Yes,
let's-
that's
yeah.
where I saw it was in
Yeah.
the permanent
Let's move
bylaws.
on to other Zoom questions. We got to watch our time a little bit here.
Thanks,
Okay.
Michelle.
I don't see any other Zoom questions.
Right now.
Really? We're that clear?
We were,
Must be something wrong.
Okay, let's see.
All right.
we were crystal clear, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, there are a lot,
Let's
50
move on.
55, yeah.
Great. Okay. So let's,
So, right,
goes on. All right. We're now going to,
we've got one more
question. Judy.
Here.
Judy Perdom,
Can't hear you, Judy. Thank you.
Judy Perdom, 13 Fallen Leaf Way. If you're not able to fill out a check tonight, where will the box be to fill out a check next week?
The box is in the hallway right in front of the main desk there. It's a big wooden box and it's got a sign on it, Marin Valley.
Everyone
up.
leaving tonight can get a copy of the joining agreement and you can come back with your check.
Okay,
And
yeah.
we'll have envelopes, but it needs to be in an envelope, the check and the joining agreement. And then put it in the box.
There'll be instructions.
Okay.
please get the instructions as well.
Just a
Okay.
couple of things.
I-
Yeah,
Okay.
Dave?
So if you put it in the box, when can you expect an acknowledgement of that?
When your check
Receipt.
clears.
You won't know until your check there. Okay,
I mean, that's really, we've deposited it. You're a member. And
okay.
Carol Joy records it.
So
unless-
that will be we won't actually. get back
I
to
don't-
people.
We weren't planning on emailing you that we got it. I mean, we got it.
We could use some volunteers. All right, let's move on.
Okay, slide 16.
What's
So,
that? Oh, the echo, yeah.
all right, folks. So the first Marin Valley Co-op member vote. There are 4 legally required steps for the first meeting of the membership of the corporation. And we will explain each of these in the coming slides. We're aiming for our first member meeting in October, so we want as many members as possible at this very important first meeting to vote and approve these 4 items. We'll hold a fireside chats too to provide more detail on the first voting items, but for now, we're going to give you a quick overview. So over to you, John.
Okay, quick overview. Let's see. The interim bylaws. Right now, it's sort of in a draft form, although it has been accepted and provided by our legal counsel. The board has accepted these, but they are, we can modify them, and we do intend to do that shortly. What it does, the articles describe, there are, let's see,
Bylaws.
first of articles, yeah. There are articles in the bylaws.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, there are 7 articles in the bylaws, and the first one is just the name of the corporation, which is Marin Valley Cooperative, Inc. The second one's the offices. Here's our office right here. The third one describes the members. Okay, the main thing here on a member is, let me tell you here, a member in good standing is a person who owns and resides in a manufactured home in the community and who has completed the joining fee agreement and paid their joining fee, as well as any spouse, partner in civil union, and other adults in the household. So what that means is that there's one joining agreement, one joining fee, then for each household. But each member of the household has to be named on the joining agreement. There's space for 2. That's where most of us are, but some of us are very social and have more than 2 in the house. So yeah, we do just need to have all those names on there. And for those moving into the park, you're a member if you have, as soon as you have any equity at all in your home, you become you're eligible for a member. Okay. So if your home is in escrow, you may have a deposit on that, but you still don't have equity in your home yet until you've signed your purchase agreement.
And I would just add on the members' description in the bylaws, to Kevin's point about conservators, we can check with legal to see if we need to name that or this just implies that.
I think that's employed,
I think
but
so
we will
too.
check.
Yeah.
Okay, then it also describes, okay, how is a member terminated? One is if you terminate yourself. You don't want to be a member? Okay, you don't have to be a member. The other is if you leave the park, then your membership is terminated because you're no longer a resident in the park. And the third is if you do something very naughty and the board says, well, we can't have you as a member for being so naughty. So the next article describes member meetings. There's a requirement to have one member meeting every year, just like we did with PAC. There's also there's an allowance in for special meetings, and a special meeting can be called by the board president or the board or 10% of the residents in
Members.
the members. So so it's easy to call a special meeting. The quorum means 1/3 of the members is a quorum.
1/3 of the members present at a meeting?
Yes, it depends. Yeah, there's two conditions there. It's 1/3 of all the members. If we're voting for purchase and sale of the park, well, purchase for the park is what we're voting for, and also the carrying charges, which is what we have instead of rent. If we were a tenant and there was a landlord, we pay them rent. But we're a corporation and we have to pay our part of the cost of running the corporation, and that's called carrying charge. And the other thing is the approval of the corporation's permanent bylaws. These are interim bylaws. They're only going to be in effect until we have the permanent bylaws. And you guys all figure that out. You decide what those permanent bylaws will be. Now,
John,
there's a
could you,
few-
I'm sorry, John,
Yeah.
could you just go over again, sort of for everyday normal votes,
Mm.
what a quorum is versus for those 3 requirements, what the
Okay.
approval threshold is?
Okay, every day-to-day meetings that we might have, I would hope we don't have day-to-day
The
meetings.
one coming
but-
up in October, for
Yeah, the
example.
one that we're having
Yeah.
is, okay, those are all the members that we have here, and 1/3 of the members then is a quorum if they show up to the meeting here. Okay, and so Everyone that wants to show up and vote, you show up. And if in 1/3 of all of our members, then it meets that quorum. Once we have the quorum, then we can go ahead with the vote.
Yeah,
And the other
okay.
thing is in 1/3 of all of the members, whether they show up or not. And those are the really important things of agreeing to the purchase and the carrying charge.
Just
and
a
so
quick
forth.
clarification
Sure.
on the purchase, carrying charges and the permanent bylaws. It's
Mhm.
a majority of the entire membership,
Yes.
not
that's
a
what-
third. It's a majority of the entire membership. You
well,
said the third,
majority, yeah.
you
yeah.
said a third by mistake. It's
That's
hard
right.
to
It's
keep
not a
track of
third.
this.
Y-
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. So on those very important ones, it takes a majority of the entire membership of everybody. So whether, if you don't show up and you don't vote, it's a no. That's a bummer. So if you want to vote no, vote no. That's fine, but please don't do it by default, even though it's that's allowed. Okay, the next part of that section then is that all decisions requiring membership vote shall be decided by a majority of those members included in the quorum content, or excuse me, the quorum count, once the quorum has been established. And that's one thing that we will be reviewing that. It's probably nothing wrong with it, but we'll see. So going on then to the next section, where are we? Section 5 describes the directors. Number of directors, it right now is 5. We can change that anytime we want, but it takes a bit to do it. In the permanent bylaws, we'll have I think a permanent decision by that point. But we can change after that. if
And
we
you get to
wish.
vote on that.
And we get to vote, exactly. Term of the initial directors, these interim directors, as we are, which is the same as the board for the PAC. These interim directors will be here until the permanent directors are voted in, or until there's a special meeting to do that, or within a year. And that can be extended if we want, but those are guidelines right now for replacing this interim board with permanents. Let's see. The rest of it is the term of the directors. Just talked about that. The compensation, we don't get compensated. And then there's a term of office. And I think I just mentioned that too, just covered that. Vacancies on the board, we just replace them when that happens. There's meetings of the board, special meetings. Quorum of directors is just like it is now. And that pretty much, got it, pretty much covers most of it. The other thing is with the officers is it describes the duties, responsibilities, and the identification of the officers. We're probably going to change that a little bit. We want to align with the way the officers are now, with the president, 2 vice presidents, and a secretary treasurer, and one of the vice presidents then is a operations director rather than manager. And then the last thing, it says the fiscal year. Right now in here it says fiscal year is July to June, but we had decided, and I guess the lawyers forgot, that our fiscal year we would prefer to be same as calendar year, so we'll change that too. And that's about it. That's our initial bylaws. Pretty simple, actually.
There are some bylaws at the back table when you go to get
Yes.
the form.
That's right.
There are
But they will be
online.
online too.
Yeah.
There's not
They-
enough for everybody, but there's definitely some.
They're online already. They're there.
Yeah, that's right. They're online if you want to see them. There's also 50 paper copies for people if you don't have access to online.
Okay, moving on. So remember where we are here. These are the 4 items that you folks are going to vote on as members. So number 1 was the bylaws. That's what John just went through. Number 2 is to affirm the election of the board of directors. 2 slides forward, please. So you'll recall that on March 26th of this year, we had an election and you named the then current PAC board members as the directors for the Marin Valley Cooperative. That's great. That's fine. That's perfect. But our funders and CCCD, that's Rock USA and CCCD, require a member vote on that election that we held in on March 26th. So the second item that we're asking you to vote on in our first member vote is to affirm the election of those directors. And you'll know who they are. They're the current PAC board directors, no change in personnel there. And all this is an affirmation of that March 26th vote. So as John said, this vote, this board will serve until we purchase the park, in which case there'll be a new election for a new board, or I think you said one other condition. I think someone could call an election prior to that, or until September 2025. And that's 1 year. We had our first board meeting this week. So we have another year to go with this current board in place. Mary,
Yeah. Now that we have Marin Valley
next slide.
Cooperative formed, we're required to name legal counsel. And Goldfarb and Lippman did the incorporation for us, as we mentioned. And right now, they're providing service on both roads. They're providing service on guiding us with the tasks under the exclusive negotiating agreement with the city, and they're providing service for us on the formation of the cooperative. And they're keeping those buildings separate, as I mentioned before. The LEHC Co-op Development Road bills are going to be deferred until later, hopefully get paid through a pre-development loan. And the reason we're still asking for money in the legal fund is to pay for the legal counsel on the city road. So you'll be asked to vote to confirm Goldfarb Lippman as the attorney for the cooperative during the upcoming member vote in October.
Okay, I'd like to talk next about 3 board policies that members will be voting on. And I think these are good examples of, sort of in addition to bylaws, structures that Rock USA urges and requires of its members to ensure that the leadership of each Rock is really a well-functioning leadership team. First, there's a code of ethics. Next slide, please. So the code of ethics, requires board members at all times basically to show good faith and act honestly. And I think you can see that in some of these elements. In addition, the policy states that for each board member, their authority is really limited to actions that are taken at a board meeting or on items authorized at that board meeting. Next slide. Another main element of the ethics policy involves a duty of care. In addition to sort of being an honest person and an ethical person, there's an expectation that board members take additional steps to ensure that they're competent, that they're acting competently as board members. And again, you can see some examples of what that means in terms of what board members need to do, such as staying current with relevant regulation. And lastly, there's a focus in these ethics policies on maintaining confidentiality and respecting privacy. And I think you can see that in the last 2 bullet points here. So that's one of the 3 policies, the Code of Ethics. Next slide. Yep. Thank you. And there's also a conflict of interest policy that you'll be voting on that will be binding on the board. And their directors have to disclose any conflicts, and specifically, they'll each be filling out a form regarding any knowledge they may have of conflicts or lack of conflicts with board practices, or with board business rather. Board members are also prohibited from contracting with the co-op for any services. And directors serve, of course, without compensation, although they may receive reimbursement for approved expenses. Last slide. Next slide, rather, excuse me.
Oh, hold on.
you.
Procurement.
The last policy has to do with procurement. So ROC has a fairly stringent set of practices that board members are required to follow when procuring items or services. And you can see it's a fairly comprehensive list here. Next slide. And as you look through these, you can see that a lot of this is designed to ensure that the co-op members are getting good value for whatever money we spend. These are also designed for transparency, so members can see how money is being spent by the co-op. And within these procurement policies, there is some discretion on the dollar thresholds for certain kinds of activities, how much documentation, pre-due diligence and record keeping is required for certain types of activities. Those limits will be selected by the board and brought to you all for voting when you're approving these policies. And that's pretty much it on board policies, on the 3 board policies.
Thanks, Dave. Alan?
Dave?
Dave, I've got you down this too.
Oh, the voting process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Voting process?
Voting process.
Well, I'll just look through this. I didn't realize that
Oh,
was.
well,
we can
we
do-
can do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Go ahead.
All right, so voting process. Uh, The first meeting, we'll have a member meeting, and again, we're aiming for October, mid-October. That will be live and on Zoom. We must have a quorum of members. John defined the quorum. That's 1/3 of the membership. So just to do easy math here, let's pretend we have 90 members by the time we have that first meeting. 30 members must participate in that meeting. To pass any of these first 4 measures, which we will probably present as a block, an up or down vote on all 4, we need to have a majority of those 30 members say yes. That would be 16 in my example. Obviously, we'd like to have a lot more, but that's how that goes. This first meeting is an important meeting. It's a kickoff meeting. It's a celebration. We hope everybody who joins will be here live in this room. There'll be a lot of buzz. Really worth your time being here. Also, you get to cast that first vote in person. That's really a cool thing. All right. There'll be no proxy voting. This is a change from how the PAC was constituted. So that's difficult because you'll recall back in March when we had those 2 votes, there were a lot of people who were gone, ourselves included. So we had proxies for our own votes. So we can't do that anymore. So we have to be present to be have to be present to win, so to speak. And we'll run this vote rather than by ballot, but by hand count, just the way we did the 2 votes in March. We'll have counters, we'll double check, we'll confirm. I think what's very important that we do in that first meeting that we have not had to do previously is we have to confirm that we're getting only 1 vote per household. So for example, Serena and I can't vote and then 15 minutes later, Serena votes. No. It's got to be 1 vote per household. So we've got to be sure that we've got our structures in place to ensure that we're having a legal vote on that.
And we have to be sure that the couples and partners agree on who's going to vote.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not our problem.
No, it's not our problem, but
Yeah,
it's your problem.
finally, it could be that future votes will be done by ballot, and we'll have to determine what would constitute a ballot vote versus just a show of hands vote. So we'll have some guidance on that. Now that we're incorporated, we will have participation from CCCD. We'll have technical advisor participating in our or actually auditing our board members, our board meetings, so that we are sure to stay within the straight and narrow. All right, it's time to move on to questions. Now, given that we're doing great on time, we're going to open this up to any question you might have. not only about the first member vote, but about anything that you want to ask about in this whole process. We'd like you to keep it focused on what we've talked about today, rather than ask about why don't we own the park since we paid all this money so far. Let's don't have that question, please. All right, Meg.
Hi, Meg Jordan, 29 Marin Valley.
Hold on, please.
hear you,
Hold
Meg.
on. Folks, if you're going to leave the hall, please do so quietly. If you're going to go back to get a form, this is not the time. You'll be able to do that at the end of the meeting. So I'm going to ask you all, please, to sit down and wait till the meeting is over and then go back and collect your form. We're still in process here.
Okay.
Folks, please take your seats. Thank you. Meg.
So conceivably, we're saying that only if a quorum is 1/3 of members present or members total.
Total.
Members total, okay.
We have 90 members total. A quorum at this first meeting is 31, preferably.
31. So conceivably, 31 households could determine the bylaws for 400 homes.
Conceivably, that's that.
Conceivably.
Wouldn't it be nice instead of 90 members, we had
200.
275, 280, 300 members?
Yeah,
And
so
wouldn't
my
it be
sec-
nice if people came?
My second question then is, as an ambassador, we put forth a great effort of email, text, phone to get people
I will
here.
talk about that in
Will
just
you?
a moment.
Okay,
Thank
because
you.
there sounds
I
like a
will
second.
talk about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg. Thanks.
Are we going to count the votes of the people who are on Zoom? Will they raise their hand? and we
Yes.
count that?
Yes.
We'll do it just like we
Yep.
did before, except we'll have to ensure, we counted on Zoom, we counted Zoom votes before, and we will have to ensure that we're getting one vote per household.
Yes,
Same
thank
as
you.
in here.
Thanks, Carol Joy.
David King, 2 Wild Oak.
A little closer, David, sorry.
What's that?
A little closer, please. Thank you.
This is it, kiddo.
Yeah, I get it.
So there was a slide that said the initial directors until September 2025. Did I read that slide right?
Yes.
And yet in the bylaws, the draft of the bylaws, it says that the initial directors will serve until the first annual meeting.
Well, it won't be the first annual meeting until a year from the first meeting that we hold in October. The first annual meeting will be October in 2025. However, we've also been told that the board would serve 1 year. We'll refine that as we go. It'll either be in September or October of next year.
But it's not clear in this bylaws that they can only serve 1 year.
Well,
Interim board.
the interim board will serve only 1 year.
Or something to clarify.
Okay, we'll take it up with our attorney. Thank you.
The other thing is there's a reason why section 5.7 isn't here.
Well, it could be, I don't know what the whole document says. That could be the signatures page that we kept off because we didn't want to copy.
Yeah.
a
5
whole
pages.
bunch
We
of-
left the signature,
That's right.
the signature page we left off.
That's section 5.7.
Believe so.
Yeah.
Lost my copy.
Well, let
Thank
me
you.
see.
Alexis.
6. Oh,
Alexis,
I see
we-
what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. They just didn't count right.
We'll get back to you on that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Alexis, 38 Marin Valley Drive. I just have a question about where the money will come from when we own the park for paying for capital projects.
Right now, we can't really say too much about that because that's all part of our negotiations with the city. So all of the finances, there's a number of things. There's purchase of the park. We have no idea what that is going to be at this time. And there's a capital projects going forward. We don't know what that's going to be. We also need to have our park
First year budget.
condition report and due diligence will define that, not only what the costs are, but when those costs would be necessary. All of that will go into determining what the carrying charges might be.
Thank you.
And you.
Well, one
will-
thing I think we can say, though, is that as part of our offer and as part of our work with Rock USA and our loan with Rock USA, there will be a section of our full loan where a certain amount of money is allocated to capital improvements. That will be a feature of the loan. There will be a capital improvement component of the
Yes,
full
but
loan
that's
amount.
pretty nebulous right now.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just saying it will be in that loan amount.
And I would add that another strategy, I don't know, another strategy would be to seek grant funding.
That's right.
Again, an unknown nebulous thing, but it's a plan that we intend to.
We are required to put to you as members a vote on the purchase price, the new carrying charges, the 10-year CapEx plan, and the first-year budget. We cannot purchase the park without your approval. Jan.
Jan Thomas, 15 Fallen Leaf. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go,
Okay.
Jan.
I think you just answered my question. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't agree to buy the park and then vote and decide we didn't want to become an LEHC. So, you know, we will have some figures, some
You have more votes
money
ahead, yes.
We'll know what it's going to cost us before
That's
we
right.
commit to anything.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
You will also vote, have to approve the pre-development loan when the time comes for that. That's
Okay.
also a member vote.
Yeah, because I was focused on Serena's comment that becoming an LEHC could happen only after we bought the park. And I thought, oh crap, we buy the park and then we don't want, do we have a plan B?
Well,
Yeah,
It's just the process
It's a
takes a lot of
process.
time, Jen, and it doesn't happen right away. So
okay.
once
But
we purchase the park or acquire the park from the city, and the community has voted to proceed with whatever the terms are, then we're well on our way. And then there's a legal process involved to becoming an
but
LEHC.
before we purchase the park, we're going to have a pretty good idea about how much more it's going to cost us each month to
Absolutely.
live here.
We will know
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yep.
Thank you.
And whether
Thank
there will be
Yeah.
an increase.
Thanks.
Hi, John Feld, Clubview. Is it okay if I ask you a membership question?
sure.
Please.
It seemed to slip by. There is a chance that people will say, I don't want to be a member, I want to be a renter rather than a member. When they sell their house, my understanding is that they have to sell it to somebody who becomes a member. That
Correct.
will never carry forward.
Correct.
That's right.
Right.
Thank you.
If we are a co-op, everybody who moves into this park has to become naturally a member of the co-op.
There will be no,
There'll be no-
eventually there'll be no
no rent.
renters here.
That's right.
So, I'm Deb McNeil, 33 Clubview, and I just have a simple question about the membership name that I'm putting on there. Is it my properties in a trust for myself and my kids? And I'm just wondering, do I put my name or the trust's name?
Fascinating question. I don't know. What do you think?
Why don't you put both?
Yeah.
Couldn't hurt to put both.
Couldn't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Marty Gelman, Marin Valley Drive. So I've been thinking about our exclusive agreement. When does that over?
It-
It goes, go ahead, John.
Go, you have it. That's fine.
It goes through June of 2025 with the opportunity for 2 6-month extensions.
That the city has to agree on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
The reason I'm bringing this up is we haven't had a good experience dealing with the city of Nevada. And they're desperate to sell this property because they need the money.
we don't know that that's true.
Well,
We
They're
really
trying to
don't.
raise taxes, they're in arrears for millions of dollars. It's only an opinion question.
Yeah, gotcha.
If
Mhm.
we're in the middle of negotiations with them, past the agreement date, what happens then if they decide they want to sell it to somebody else?
We're not there yet.
We've got a
As
year
I-
and a half to go, so
Yeah.
hopefully
I'm-
by
it
then.
was just a
And Marty,
thought,
I,
that's
I don't
all.
know why my mic's not working, but in the news business that I was in, you never answer a hypothetical question. That's hypothetical.
But,
Who knows?
but we're different.
But we're different. And I
Yeah.
can tell you that this group here that you see before you, these 5 people that we've been
Yes.
busting our butts and volunteering and tracking this,
Yes,
it's our commitment to make sure this ENA is fulfilled.
great.
That's all of our
Listen,
desire.
Since the
Yeah.
beginning, I've trusted.
I know that, Marty. Thank you.
All right, one more question, 2 more questions.
Sorry. I saw something on the slides about the ethics of the board that had to do with confidentiality of bids.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure confidentiality and transparency are kind of having a dichotomy in my brain. Can you explain that at all?
I've got a good example.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
Yeah. I mean, the example that I would give you is that, for example, it's about contracts. We have a contract with the lawyer,
Okay.
and that is something we don't disclose. That has to be held confidentially. So there's certain contracts that will have to be held confidentially.
But
And
that
that's
doesn't
the
have to
only
do with
example I have.
construction Bids. It doesn't have to do with the construction bids.
It might, I'm not sure.
Fixing bids or.
It might have to do,
Yes, it does on that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
so,
But-
well, just to clarify, we have an open bidding process that's transparent,
Okay.
but the bids could be confidential, could be held confidentially.
That's right.
Once
Right.
the contracts are awarded. I don't know. One thing we'd like to say is that we're going to hold fireside chats between now and this first member vote on all of these items that we're going to vote on.
Okay.
So these 3 board policies, which are required by Rock USA and CCCD, they were given to us as requirements. We will be going over those and we'll be clarifying any questions that we have that you all might have that forward them to us that we've recorded during this meeting to clarify with them so we can bring you good answers.
Could I just ask if there's a concern behind your question?
No, just the dichotomy of the words.
Okay. Mhm.
Uh,
Thank you.
yeah, I can, like to
Thank
add
you.
one thing here on that question. This is from Todd. And he says confidentiality versus transparency. We don't have to see the contract, but we could be told what the deliverables are, or if there is a limit on the spending. So that's that balance of transparency and confidentiality.
And thanks, Todd, for adding that.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
All right, Greg.
Yeah, Greg Smith, 3 Fallen Leaf. I wanted to first point out how much I appreciate the discussions around the fiscal controls and internal controls that are already being discussed. I had a question about one I did not hear that may be appropriate for the bylaws, and that is stipulating a requirement around an independent audit,
Mm.
which is typically required of nonprofit organizations, in particular if we're considering submitting grant applications.
Thank you. This is something that Rock USA does as well for us.
That's right.
They
yeah.
will do audit all our financials.
I see.
Yeah.
Good, all right.
Thanks for
Thank you.
noticing.
you.
That's
Yeah,
great.
good, a great point. Thank
Yeah.
you. Judy?
2 questions. I wrote down 2 different things for what the check, how the check is to be made out. So I need clarification. The first one I wrote down was MV Park Co-op.
No.
The second one I wrote down was MVC.
Marin
And
Valley.
Marin Valley
Cooperative.
Cooperative. You need to write it out. Marin Valley Cooperative.
Marin Valley Cooperative written out.
Yep.
Okay, so that one.
And
Okay.
Whole thing.
there's a note on top of the box in which we're collecting
Mhm.
these that says that. So it tells you how to make out the check.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Now, the second question, we're making votes tonight?
No.
No.
No voting tonight.
Voting will be in October, mid-October. We have to have a membership before we can vote. Tonight, we're simply announcing that we're open for business to collect your membership. That process will be ongoing, and sometime in October, probably mid-October, with due notice, we will convene that first member vote, that first member meeting to conduct that first vote.
Okay, so therefore, there will no longer be PAC board meetings. There'll be membership meetings.
No,
Both.
we're on parallel.
They
parallel
have to be
universes there.
separate. We have still, PAC is still responsible for the delegation agreement for the running of this community. Until we become owners of the park, the co-op will run in parallel, doing work that we need to be ready to take ownership of the park. But they're two separate entities, and we're very clear about that.
And
I'm
John,
glad
you-
you brought that up
Yeah.
because it is very confusing, actually.
Yes, it has not
And
been
that's-
clarified tonight.
Yeah, there's,
to
there,
my
well, we have, we
understanding.
said that there's two roads. And one road is PAC, and that is the ENA. And under the delegation agreement, working with the city. The other road is where we're working with CCCD and Rock USA toward, and our lawyers actually, toward the LEHC.
Yes.
So those are the two roads, and that's, and
Oh,
that's,
I understand the two roads.
And each road has a board of directors.
That's
There's
right.
two entities, two board of directors, and the business for each will be conducted by the appropriate board.
yes.
So the election in October is a second board of directors?
Well, that's, I'm sorry, Judy, but that's really confusing too, because we already had the vote, months ago, March.
March is what the slide.
It's an
says.
affirmation of what you did in March.
That's
right.
all it is.
But it's done by the members of the co-op.
These are all legal loopholes,
Yeah.
or
Requirements.
whack-a-moles, I should say.
Well, it was not March, it was not March that I ran for office.
No. All we're doing is affirming what was done on March 25th. Our
25th.
funders and CCCD want to have the members affirm that group as the board of directors. We've already elected the board of directors. We did so in March. The whole community voted on that, and now the membership will simply affirm that vote.
That's
And
it.
those-
Could I try to restate that as well?
Yeah.
In March,
And
there
those
was a vote, there was a vote,
individuals were,
excuse me, in March, there was a vote where the PAC community members decided that the current PAC board should be the initial board of directors for the new corporation,
The
And
interim
it-
board. Mhm.
The interim board.
the interim board.
Yeah.
And at that meeting, we also said that if there were new PAC board members elected in May, June, those new PAC board members would take over the roles in the interim board of the MVC cooperative. There were no new PAC board members elected in May. So the current PAC board will is in effect the interim board of MVC as well. But we are still going to be asking the MVC membership to affirm that decision.
okay. Got it.
There won't be another election. It's just
No.
we
An
have to
affirmation.
affirm.
A confirmation.
It's
Yeah.
a confirmation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
That's
you,
a good.
Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. Kevin,
Kevin Mulvaney, 115 Panorama. Just, I'm still not clear. How are we going to make sure that all the people that aren't here, aren't interested in participating, are going to get?
you're one
This
slide ahead of
message.
me. Just
Okay.
Thanks,
have a
Kevin.
seat and we'll talk
Are
about
there
it.
any
Are
online?
there Zoom questions?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Our first one is from Paula. Paula's been online here for a long time. I hope you're still there, Paula. Go ahead and unmute yourself. We'd like to hear your question.
Oh, thank you. You know, I got my question answered. I probably should have taken my hand down. It was where to write your checks to. So now I know. And then I can just put the forms and the box will be at the clubhouse.
Yes.
correct?
It's here now.
so I
It's
can
here
just bring my
waiting for
check
you.
up. Awesome. Okay, so will it be always like on the counter by Matt?
It's a big, huge box, wooden box that we use for the general election, and it's in front of the counter to the left.
Yes, don't trip it over you, no, over it, you'll hurt yourself, so.
Other questions on Zoom?
Yeah, Anila, go ahead.
Okay, next
Anila.
is Anila Manning. Go ahead, Anila. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Anila?
Are you there, Anila?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed there's a lively discussion going on in the chat. And there's some good questions that I'd love to hear answered. Is there
I'll
any
get to
way you
those
guys
when we're
can see
finished
and
with yours.
respond to the chat?
We will get to those.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Coming soon.
Keep on trucking.
Okay, next is Judy Lee.
And let's please keep these brief and we'll answer them as quickly as we can. Thank you.
So go ahead, Judy.
Judy, unmute yourself.
Hello, Judy.
There you go.
She's talking, but I don't.
We'll come back to you, Judy.
Or she could put her question in the chat.
Who's next?
Okay, next is Joe Diavolo. Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, thank you. With this notion of affirming the vote in March, I guess in regards to the interim board, I question only because we don't have an ROC member present to answer the question. What if we, as a membership that voted then, decide that that's not the board that we want? Or how can we possibly affirm the board if we're questioning that authority that was given to the PAC and not the new board for the new membership?
The reason we're doing this, Joe, is that it was the PAC that and the PAC Corporation and the PAC board that initiated that first vote. Now we have the new corporation, and we need to reaffirm that vote by the new corporation.
And
If the
it's
new corporation does not like then fine, you can do a vote in some other people. But
Oh, no, that was the
yeah, that it's hard to stop a train and get going again.
Well, it's not hard to stop a train if you bring
I
up
think
the
it was
issue
before we
that-
started.
Okay, let's go on. Joe, do you have any
Well, I
did
need
you
to
finish
have
your
that
question?
question. I need to have that question answered by ROC when the next time is possible. Thank you.
So just to be clear, you would like a ROC representative to answer that question at the next opportunity. Is that correct?
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Okay.
Do we have a couple from the chat?
Okay, here's one. Okay, this was from Judy Lane, first one. How do those of us on Zoom get a form and where to send it to check? You can get a form online, download it and print it, or you can come to the clubhouse or send a friend to the clubhouse to pick it up for you. And then you can include the check along with the signed form in an envelope that needs to go into the box. That would be good if it was done by a good friend. And so, okay, next
They're
is
go,
by Paula.
I'm sorry, they're going out, sorry, tomorrow morning, again, I said before, they're going out via constant contact tomorrow morning.
Okay,
And
great.
they're online right now.
We have 5 minutes left, so let's rock. And we have some more slides to cover.
Okay, the next is my check is in the mail. Seriously, will there be a box in the clubhouse? There is, but it's not really a mailbox. So, it'd be better if the check was not seriously in the mail, but was in somebody's hand to bring it manually and put it in the box.
But make sure it's a check with a signed agreement in an envelope.
Yes.
Let's go on.
That's right. The next question here is by Pam Birkin. To whom exactly is the $25 check to be made out to?
Marin Valley Cooperative.
Yes, that's
Let's have a quiz. Marin Valley Cooperative.
Okay, let's order, please. Let's go on.
Okay, the next is, will the box and form be at the clubhouse for a while?
Yes,
Couple of weeks, maybe. even longer.
Ongoing. Let's go on.
ongoing.
What is the cost of that insurance?
The directors and officers insurance for the Board of Directors of Marin Valley Cooperative is $3,000 for a year.
Okay, and then there's some, a technical question here, a couple of them from, Michelle. And, actually, I don't
Can we
think.
table those, John? Or are they absolutely essential?
That's what I'm doing, Alan, just.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll table those actually, and actually I would like to talk with Michelle directly about those, to take care of those. Define naughty, well, I'll define that later.
That's up to Santa Claus, I thought.
Santa Claus knows. That's all we need to know. Santa knows. That's okay.
Okay, next is first member vote. Should we see should we see contact with Goldfarb Lippman, contract, excuse me, the Goldfarb Lippman, or have a limit on spending?
The contract is with the Board of Directors, so the contract is not a public document. It's held in confidence. And I'll be able to report out on the expense. The Goldfarb Lippman went back to go through the invoice to separate it out between the two roads. Because at first they didn't do that, but they've agreed to do that. So they're working on it. We don't have an invoice yet for the last 3 months, but we will get one soon.
The next is, they did not mention the authority of the people and of the board and percent of vote of the people to pass the bylaws. Actually, the new bylaws, yeah, I'm not sure which she's talking about, the permanent bylaws or the interim bylaws, but we went through that.
Yeah.
For the interim bylaws, that's a vote that's coming up.
Again, we'll have fireside chats on all the items on the upcoming votes.
That's
so.
right.
But just to say, it's a third of the members present at a quorum for the interim bylaws.
Yeah.
And a majority of those.
Let's see, and then the procurement doesn't say multiple bid requirements or lowest bid.
We were just highlighting points from the procurement document. That was not a complete list of items there, and those will be available for you to read well before the vote.
That's right. There's also California law that covers that. Is anyone reading? Oh, let me see. Confidentiality. Already did
One
that.
or two more, John.
I think that's it.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on.
Hold on. We're not done. We're not done. Folks, please hold on. We're not done because we have another slide here.
We do.
Oh, another slide.
Where's the slide?
Oh,
Thank you.
Next.
All right.
What's next?
Membership recruitment. This is the special group that I wanted to announce at the beginning. The ambassadors. Stand up,
It's
Meg.
community ambassador.
Community
Please
ambassadors.
stand up.
Community ambassadors. So these good people are going around to make sure you all have an understanding about what's going on, as well as the forms and envelopes for your membership agreement. So expect to see your friends and neighbors at your doorstep before long. All right, again, this is under what's next. Our first member vote. We just spent a long time on that. These 4 items are required. We don't have an option on it. They're required for the membership to vote on. That's coming up in October. The PAC will continue to negotiate with the city to try to get a purchase agreement in the bag. And we will continue our work in terms of developing the LEHC, and these near-term negotiations with the city will affect that. Our work with Rock USA and CCD will affect that. There's just a lot of work between here and the next steps. Again, big milestone coming up mid-October for that vote. Fireside chats between now and then so that you can understand what you're voting on. You can find this slide deck at this spot right here. This slide deck will be online on our website. And finally, thank you so much. Refreshments in the back, membership forms and envelopes in the back. Go for it.
That's it, eh?
How you doing?
Okay, I just, meeting, stop recording.
I was at Tuesday, on Tuesday, I dropped some stuff off and I was like, and I said, well, I got bad news on his, you told me